Snow squeaks under boots as a shovel bites into a fresh grave because true love can't stand a curfew and it sure as hell can't stay buried. After a Valentine's date ends in blood, the girl in the red dress opens her eyes underground. Tonight, love comes back.
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and tonight we have a very special Valentine's treat just for all you listening. A story about love, death, and, well, a whole lot more. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you all so much for joining me on the program. I do so enjoy bringing you a taste of Halloween all year long. And if you're listening to this, well, you're one of the spooky diehards, folks who don't need an excuse to want to feel a chill run down their spine. And if you can't get enough of Valentine's horrors, come back on Saturday for a collection of Valentine's Day horrors from the Weekly Spooky Vault for you to enjoy. And to support us in a very direct way and help us keep the show going and going, head to weeklyspooky.com/join. For as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes every single month, as well as my undying gratitude, and about 5 years of creepypasta readings and exclusive audiobooks at weeklyspooky.com/join. But as for tonight, this one goes out to all the lovers out there. Imagine a small town in winter, paper hearts in the Grange hall, slow songs on the turntable. It's the 1950s after all, and 2 kids who finally find someone who gets them. But in Dorset, love is treated like a sin, and some fathers don't just break curfews, they break everything else too. So what happens when the sweetest Valentine in town is taken too soon, and the grave can't hold her? What if the last dance isn't a memory? What if it's a promise? Because in this town, my spookies, love doesn't die. No. It waits. So get comfortable as we hot rod our way to a story of love and loss. Will You Be My Undead Valentine by Bruce Haney. Valentine's Day, 1958. August Hannig used the sole of his black leather boots to press the blade of his shovel into the snow-covered earth. Despite the snow, the ground was still soft and easy to dig out, the benefit of it being a fresh grave. "I wish I could have gotten here sooner, sweetie," August said, though there were only the trees, the wind, and the tombstones around to hear him. 2 weeks earlier. August was a bit of a social outcast, and he would rather have stayed home. He was 18. Shouldn't he get a choice in the matter? But his mother had been making him go to the Friday night dances at the local Grange. She suddenly found it important for him to socialize. All his life she had told him that women were evil, and she kept him from creating any lasting friendships because it seemed like everybody he wanted to be friends with came from a quote-unquote bad family. After she pushed him out of the house to go to the dance, he went by the old shack and grabbed an issue of the Vault of Horror to read, as he planned to do what he always did at these dances: sit on the benches reading comics while everybody else danced. There wasn't much to do in the small town of Dorset, especially during the winter. Although there was snow on the ground, you couldn't even go sledding because the area was miles of flat land, with only a few stores, a Grange, and a bunch of farm properties. He wasn't the only wallflower that night. Next to him sat Becky Sue Brewer, who wore a red poodle skirt, a white blouse, fire-red lipstick, and a pompadour hairdo. August thought she looked like she had stepped right out from one of those car chase movies like Hot Rod Rumble or Drag Strip Girl. Either way, she looked much different than when he used to see her around school, back when she wore plain dresses and straight hair, when people called her Boring Becky. "Is that an EC comic?" Becky Sue asked. August closed it to show her the cover and gave an evil little smile. It featured a horrific Christmas scene of a woman in a nightgown with a look of horror on her face as she looks upon a coffin wrapped with a big red bow and a tag with her name on it. Behind her stands a man swinging an axe aimed right at her skull. Yeah, Vault of Horror, their best title. Aren't they banned? How'd you get one? I have a whole box of them. Got them at Geisler's junk shop for a song. Oh yeah? 30 issues. Mr. Geisler said they had been sitting there since '54, when an irate mother donated them. How much did he charge you? She asked. $1. Each? For the whole box. Used comics aren't worth much more than 5 cents each. Did you get any issues of Tales from the Crypt? A few. You see, she said, I just think Jack Davis was their best artist, and he drew almost every cover of Tales from the Crypt. Funny, I'm more of a fan of Johnny Craig, and he drew most of the Vault of Horror covers. The crazier covers, the ones that got them in trouble with that dweeb who claimed that they were contributing to the delinquency of minors. His covers were on the more gruesome side, she said, and smiled at him. So? She looked at him like she was waiting for him to ask something. What? August asked. You going to ask me to dance or what? He thought about telling her that he didn't dance, that he had only come because his mother had made him. But he suddenly wanted to be close to old, boring Becky Sue, a girl who knew horror comics. He didn't think such a thing existed. When he heard the twangy guitar sounds of Dwayne Eddy come over the speaker system, he took it as a sign. August stood up, folded his comic, and placed it in his back pocket. Becky Sue, may I have this dance? August, we aren't kids anymore. Call me Bex. And yes, you may. Is this a good time to tell you that I don't dance? Me either. My dad would kill me if he knew I was here. It's a dance at the Grange in Dorset. It's no honky-tonk. Doesn't matter. He says dancing is for harlots and, well, I don't want to say the rest. Oh, well, I guess we can learn together. Sure. The two of them were awkward. He put his hands on her shoulders, and she put one hand around his waist, keeping a good 8 inches between their bodies. Before the song was over, they both had relaxed a bit. It's hard to stay nervous and herky-jerky when Dwayne Eddy's twangy guitar is playing. Do you like this song? Bex asked. Of course. Dwayne Eddy is the coolest. Dwayne Eddy is cool, but Link Ray is the coolest. Him or Eddie Cochran. When Rebel Rouser ended, the teenage classic A Town Without Pity came on, and Bex laughed a little. What is Dorset if not a town without pity? She said. I want to get out of here so bad. Why? He asked, while he looked in her striking green eyes. I can take it or leave it. We have a farm, and it'll be mine someday. We have a bunch of animals. You should come by sometime. My dad would kill me if I went to a boy's house. I'm not a boy. I'm a man, lady. She laughed. He continued. My mother used to be that same way. She didn't even let me have friends or date because everyone was from an immoral family. And she said all women are harlots, not just the ones who dance. Wow, she really believes that? Isn't it true? August said, seriously, before cracking a smile. She smacked him on the shoulder. You jerk. Then she moved her body a little closer to his. What changed? You know, for the longest time, I couldn't figure it out. One day, last winter, she just started pushing me out. Go make friends, she would say. Weird, but I eventually figured out why the sudden change of heart, and it made me feel kind of awful. Why? One day I was in her room, fetching her Bible. We have daily Bible readings. As I left the room after grabbing it, I noticed something peculiar. What was it? In her closet, on the top shelf, the corner of a magazine was sticking out from under her neat stack of sweaters. That's strange? Yeah, magazines aren't allowed in the house. Even my comics I have to hide in the old shack where my father spent all his time before he passed. He hated my mother. She won't go in there. I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm following. What could a magazine have to do with anything? It was a Life magazine, and it was the issue that covered Ed Gein. I heard about him. He murdered a bunch of people, right? 2. But more than that, the dude used the people he killed as well as ones he dug up for, let's call them, depraved arts and crafts projects. August leaned closer and whispered in her ear. In his house, they found furniture upholstered with human skin and a belt made of female nipples. That's hideous. Why would you tell me such a thing? Because of how hurt I was by it. Because my life was a lot like his. Long dead father, overbearing mother who believes everybody is evil. My mother only changed because she thought I was going to be the next Ed Gein. Do you know how that makes me feel? That she thought I would be some kind of depraved grave robber and murderer? I'm sorry, Beck said. August sighed. But I gotta admit, Ed Gein is my hero. Bex gave him a concerned look. Not in like, I don't look up to him or anything. I mean, he saved me from a cruddy, lonely life. Being on that farm with my mother and not being able to socialize was not good for me. Were you thinking of digging up some friends? No, but my life was quickly becoming something I was getting tired of doing, if you know what I mean. Oh, He noticed the worry on her face. Sorry, I'm way oversharing. I shouldn't have said any of the things I've said in the last few minutes. I barely know you. No, it's okay. I'm glad you shared. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have those thoughts. My home life isn't great either. You graduated last year, when I did, right? You're 18? 19. I even got a job stocking shelves at Fritz and Erickson's to try and save up and move, but $1 an hour isn't going to get me my own place. I guess you're right. Over the sound system, a voice is heard.
It is now 9 p.m. All you young folks who have a curfew, it's time to say goodnight. For you older folks, here's another fast one. Bill Haley and his Comets with Rock Around the Clock.
Bex takes her arms off August. It was nice dancing with you. Not a Bill Haley fan? Curfew. Yeah? Yes. Can I walk you home? I'd like that. Let me use the little girl's room first, okay? She was in there for 10 minutes, and when she came out, she had brushed out her pompadour and removed all her makeup. She gave him an awkward smile. Hey, pretty, August said. As they walked the 2 miles to her house, they continued to talk about their lives. The one thing they had in common was their overbearing parents. She opened up and told him about the time she was punished for chewing gum in church. He asked what the punishment was, but she wouldn't say. So August told her about the time his mother caught him hanging out with the neighbor girl, and how she screamed at him for talking to a girl who came from such an evil, immoral home. The rumor at the time was that the little girl's mother had been caught sleeping around. At least, that was what everyone guessed when they saw her around town with 2 black eyes. The little girl started crying, and my mother just said, "Those are mighty big crocodile tears for the offspring of an adulterer to be shedding." The girl never talked to me after that, and to this day, if she sees me, she turns around and walks the other way. Did you get punished? She tore my hide up real good. You sure you want to keep walking me? You're getting a ways from your place. You're over on Archer, right? I've got nothing else going on. How much further is it? If we cut through the old cemetery, about a half a mile. Dorset was a rather old town, and this century-old cemetery desperately needed some repair work. The arching metal sign on the rotting wrought iron posts should have read Dorset, Pioneer Cemetery, but many letters had fallen off from age or had been stolen. August hesitated before following her through the archway. I've never been in a cemetery before. Not even when your father passed? She asked. I didn't go. Your mother didn't make you? She tried, and I ran away. What cemetery is he buried in? This one. I have to get home, or I'd say let's look for him. I don't want to anyway. Oh, okay. Then she grabbed his hand to comfort him. He looked her in the eye and gave a half-hearted smile. It would ruin my delusion. What do you mean? I still pretend that one day he'll come back. That should make your mother happy. Why? Well, if you really were an Ed Gein type, you would be spending more time in cemeteries. And if you were like him and you wanted your father back, he would have come over a long time ago and brought him back home. August laughed. We have to get moving. I don't want to get into trouble. All right, just one more moment, he said. and took in her beauty. "All right, we can go. I just wanted another moment of looking at those 2 beautiful malachite spheres you got. They're bewitching." She blushed. "Bewitching, eh? Malachite spheres. You are new to socializing, aren't you?" They continued their way through the old graveyard, till they arrived at a pathway that went through the woods. "That's the way to my place." "You live in the woods?" "No, this is just a shortcut. The front of the house sits on 2nd Street. "Oh, okay." Then August began walking again. "What are you doing?" "Walking you home." "I appreciate it, but this is as close as you can go." "Oh, why?" "My father would kill me and possibly you too if he saw us holding hands." "Oh. What if he caught me giving you a goodnight kiss?" "He would castrate you," she said, and then leaned in to accept the kiss. He closed his eyes and moved in. They were both nervous. Neither had ever kissed before, but they both perched their lips instinctually. The butterflies in August's stomach were fluttering at full speed. A rustling sound was heard in the bushes, and Bex jumped back. "Run," she said in a low but serious voice. Thankfully, he listened and was able to get far enough to jump behind the single mausoleum in the cemetery before her father, Joseph, appeared on the pathway. The old man was dressed for bed in white thermal pants and a top. The only precautions he had taken for coming out in the snow were putting on a pair of boots and throwing on an old, worn red wool coat. He would have looked comical if it weren't for the long-barreled rifle he was carrying, which made him look terrifying. "Where have you been?" her father screamed. "Geez, Pa, I was just at Sarah's house. Her parents took dinner late. Mrs. Holly burned the meatloaf and her husband insisted she cook a whole new meal from scratch. I tried to leave, but Mr. Holly said, 'Sarah, we invited you to dinner. We ain't sending you away hungry because my wife is a poor excuse for a cook.' What was I supposed to do?" Joseph stared at her with anger in his eyes, like he was trying to will her into confessing to some crime. August watched this exchange from the protection of his hiding spot. Man, she was a good liar, he thought. Then he watched in horror as the old man suddenly looked in his direction and slowly brought the rifle up to aim. August moved back. "Father!" Joseph shot an angry glance that stopped her in her tracks. He held the rifle up to his shoulder, closed one eye, and took a second to make sure his aim was true. The sound from the .30-06 was deafening. August yelped in fear, and then placed his hand over his mouth as fast as he could, as if he could pull back the sound he had made. The bullet had found its target, and it was a perfect kill shot into the chest of a coyote that was not 50 yards past his hiding spot. "Wahoo! I gotcha, you chicken-thieving no-good mongrel! Now fetch that and hurry, the fur'll make a nice hat. And maybe, just maybe, I'll go easy on you for breaking curfew." "Yes, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy," she said, and then made her way towards the corpse of the coyote. "Don't forget to grab a switch on your way," he said, and then he sighed. "A medium one. I'll go easy on you." She turned towards him. "Yes, Daddy, of course. Thank you, Daddy, she said, smiling at him as she tried to hide her fear. But a single tear rolled down her cheek. Joseph turned around to make his way back home. Once he was gone, she made her way towards August, who jumped up and ran towards Bex and wrapped his arms around her. She looked at him and saw the concern in his eyes and could no longer hold back her emotions. She broke down and cried, so he held her tighter. It's okay. Everything'll be okay. He didn't believe his own words, and secretly he wanted to go attack her father. Who could hurt a girl like her? You've got to get out of that house. I have nowhere to go. Can't your mother help you? She shook her head no, then took him by the hand and walked him a few rows down, and pointed to a small tombstone that said Beatrice Sue Collins, 1920 to 1957. Your mother? Yeah. What happened? Depends on what you believe. She allegedly fell down the stairs. That's so sad. Yes, it is, but what? I don't know, she sighed. It's just the night it happened, they had been fighting. More tears flowed down her face with sadness and relief, as August was the first person that she felt like she could confide in with her thoughts. There was some other strangeness, too. My father made me stay in my room, but I peeked out when I heard him return home with the sheriff. I tried to listen to their conversation, but they spoke in a hushed tone. The only part I heard was when my father got upset and raised his voice. He said, "Remember, if I go down, I'll tell everybody about what you did." Then I heard the sheriff say, "I guess it does look like an accident." And he walked out, slamming the door behind him. August held her tight to his body. She looked up at him. "Kiss me." He wasn't sure if he should, but she was in such an emotional state, and her eyes had such a pleading look to them. He gently kissed her lips. Then again. Then she kissed him back. And a minute later, she was pushing her tongue into his mouth. She kissed him even harder after she felt his man parts pressing against her leg. The only time before this that she had felt that was when her father hugged her that one Christmas after he had a few too many beers. Her mom had been there to separate him from her after seeing the fear on her face. As August and Bex kissed, her hands began to explore, and eventually he realized where her hand was heading. When she touched the place that he only dared to when he hid in his father's old shed, and then only if his mother was taking her nap or had gone to the store. The sensation was so intense that he felt his legs begin to buckle. When the top of the tombstone blew up and the sound of Joseph's rifle once again echoed through the graveyard, his penis went into full turtle retracto mode. By the time they looked in the direction her father was running towards them, the gun was pointing at August. "Daddy, no, don't! Sir, it's not what it—" But then he was silenced when the old man swung the butt of the gun, hitting him in the head. August didn't know how long he passed out for, but he was freezing and had to brush off a bit of snow that had landed on him. His first thought was to run to her house and save her. But then he second-guessed it, afraid that it would cause more trouble for her. The next day, as he worked around the farm, all his thoughts were of her and that kiss and her roaming hands. He tried to keep his mind off it. How many times had his mother told him that sexual thoughts were immoral, and just as evil as sex outside the marital bed? He still believed some of that to be true, but he couldn't keep his mind from sinning. If he wasn't thinking about having sex with Bex, he was worrying about her. Neither idea was comforting. He considered confessing these thoughts to his mother, thinking that she could guide him and absolve him of his sin. But he didn't want to risk hearing her opinion on Bex. He knew she would call her a harlot and a vessel of sin. August began to cry, and he couldn't quite place why. He was so wrapped up in his own brain, and he had nobody to talk to. If only he had a friend, or if his mother allowed him to go to church, a pastor might be able to give him some spiritual guidance. But since Dorset had no Lutheran church, he had never been inside a place of worship. "What's wrong with you today, boy?" Margaret, his mother, yelled at him as he fed the hogs. He was so in his head that he didn't notice her coming outside. Margaret was a thin, frail woman who had earned every line on her wrinkled face from scowling at people and the constant judgmental frown she wore. Regardless of circumstances, she always seemed to be upset or disappointed. "I'm just feeding the hogs, Ma." "I can see that, but it's noon. You should already be in the barn milking Betsy." "I guess I'll have to do that, too." "I'm working my way there. I can do it." "If you were really working, you would have gotten to her by 10:30. You know she gets fussy this late in the day." "I know, Ma. I know. I can handle her fussiness. It's just—" Then he stopped himself. Though she had gotten more lenient about who he spoke to and encouraged him to make friends, he didn't think she would be okay with him spending time with the daughter of Joseph Brewer. "What is it, boy? Spit it out. Better to spit it out than to make the animals suffer from your lazy way of working." "I met a girl." This stopped Margaret in her tracks, and August could practically see the gears in her head turning as she decided on her response. She stared at him a good while before finally saying, "That's good, boy. I'm going to take care of Betsy." Once she was gone, he sighed in relief and thought, "God bless you, Ed Gein." At the Brewer house, Bex was moving around slowly, doing her chores as well, but her slowness was because her body was sore. After they had left August passed out in the snow, he dragged her by the hair to the house, and instead of a switch, he threw her against the wall and punched her repeatedly. She had thought to herself during the fight, "Just keep yourself away from any stairs." August wanted to impress Bex, so he had dug through his clothes and his father's to create a look. He settled on a striped shirt with a blazer over it. They contrasted horribly. He paired that with his nicest blue jeans and a pair of brand new Chuck Taylors. As he walked into the Grange dance hall, he noticed eyes on him. He immediately felt self-conscious. He looked down at his wardrobe and sighed. "Hey, you, looking sharp." August spun around to see who the wiseacre was, but instead was greeted with Bex's smiling face. "Oh, hey, I wasn't sure if you'd be coming," August said. "Yeah, I was surprised that I was able to. I had to do extra work around the house and made my dad his favorite dinners all week to get permission to go to Sarah's house. But of course that was a ruse to come here and see you. I've been thinking about you all week," he said. He didn't mean to be so honest. He had planned to play it cool. I was afraid you wouldn't like me anymore. Why wouldn't I? He asked. Because my father attempted to murder you. Oh, that happens to me all the time. She laughed. So, should we dance or should we sit on the benches and judge people first? They danced all night and smiled and laughed together as if they didn't have horrible home lives to go back to. In this moment, my life is perfect, August said. You old softy. It's true, he protested. She rolled her eyes, then moved closer so that their bodies were touching as they danced. They stayed in that position, slow dancing, even when the song ended and the curfew announcement was given. Don't you have to go? August asked. Yeah, but she didn't let go, and they continued to hold each other, forgetting about the outside world. 6 inches, said Miss Brockmiller. Miss Brockmiller was one of the unofficial chaperones of the dance. Nobody asked her. She had just started showing up one week and took control. Mostly she made sure that the disc jockey didn't play too much fast rock and roll, and that nobody was doing the dirty boogie. Oh, sorry, ma'am, Beck said. I wasn't thinking. What would your father think? She began to respond. Hey, leave her alone, August said. We're not kids, and we separated as asked, so move on and bother somebody else. And what would your mother think of you talking to your elder like this? My mother can think whatever she wants to. Plus, you know my mother doesn't value the opinion of a divorced woman anyhow. Miss Brockmiller huffed and then walked away. Oh no, Beck said. What? August asked. She's going to tell my father. No, she won't. Yeah, she will. She works with him. Oh, August said, then looked down at the floor. I'm sorry, Bex. With all that, they stopped dancing, and her real-life troubles began to return to her head. I've got to go. I'm going to be in so much trouble. It's going to be all right. She gave him a fake smile.
Thank you all for coming. We are closing out the dance, like we always do, with the McGuire sisters. Good night, sweetheart. Good night.
What time does the dance end? Bex asked with panic in her voice. 11. It's 11? She said in a panic. He's going to kill me. He won't kill you. You don't know him. I met him, kind of, when he hit me in the face with the butt of his gun. Doesn't that tell you what he's capable of? Bex broke out in tears, so he put his arm around her. She put her head on his shoulder, and they walked out of the dance together. As he guided her towards the direction of her house, she stopped him. You can't walk me home. I might not be murdered if I talk quick enough, if I'm sweet enough, but he will kill you. Okay, he said. It was nice dancing with you. Always. Then she turned to walk away. Bex? He waited for her to turn around, and then continued. Before you go, he reached into the pocket of his jeans and pulled out a little card. She walked back towards him, and he handed it to her. On the cover, he had drawn a heart with their names inside, She smiled at him, and then opened it up and read, "Dear Bex, becoming reacquainted with you last week started a fire inside of me. Just as I was settling for a life of boredom and solitude at the farm, I met you, a girl so full of life. I shouldn't say it, and I know it's dumb to say, but when we had that first dance, I fell in love with you." "Oh, Augie," she said, and then threw her arms around him and kissed him. "It is stupid to say," she stated, and watched his face turn into a frown. "But I must be stupid too, because I feel the same about you. I love you." August began to smile once again. "So, will you be my Valentine? The big dance is next Friday." "Of course, but I do expect more from a date than just going to the same dance every week." "Of course. Dinner at Jay's beforehand?" August leaned in and kissed her again, and it wasn't long before they were full-on making out, leaning against the side of the Grange hall. "Becky Sue!" Miss Brockmiller yelled. They separated instantly. Suddenly hit with the reality that the dance was ending, people were filing out, and half the town saw them making out like a couple of teenagers. "I'm calling your father!" she shouted. "Screw you!" Bex said, and then grabbed August's hand and dragged him away from the Grange hall. He didn't know where she was taking him, but he followed, without complaints or questions. She dragged him to Fritz and Erickson's, the department store she worked at. Inside, she led him to the showroom, where they had a single bed. It was a top-of-the-line bed set with a beautiful gold wrought iron headboard. It was nice, too nice for the town. She had noted how many people had looked at it, but it was one of those items that was just too expensive for any of their customers. It had been sitting in the showroom for 2 years, waiting for someone to take it home. Every day that she worked there, she dreamed of a future where she would be out on her own, away from her father, and how the first thing she would furnish her place with would be this very bed. She imagined it as her marital bed. Bex let go of his hand and sat on the corner of it, where she slowly took off her red wedges, then climbed on top and gave him a come-hither look. August was no fool, so it only took him a few moments to pull off his coat and sneakers and jump into bed with her. It took him all of 10 minutes of making out before he had the nerve to place his hands on her side, right below her breast. "Can I?" he asked. "I don't know. Can you?" She laughed. "I mean, may I?" She gave a small chuckle before grabbing his hand and placing it on her breast. "Oh my God," he thought. "I'm touching a breast." Over her dress, but still. He wanted so badly to put his hand underneath and touch her bare skin, but he was afraid that she wouldn't be ready for it. Plus, he would have to go past her femininity to reach it. Suddenly, she grabbed his hand and pulled it from her chest, then stood up, pulled her dress off, dropped her panties, and reached back to unclasp her bra. It was almost too much for August. She was the first girl that he had ever kissed, and now she was fully naked in front of him. He had never even seen a naked female before. The best he could do was the cleavage of the evil females who appeared in EC Comics. The eviler the woman, it seemed, the more cleavage they showed. He liked the evil women. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "Isn't it obvious?" she asked. "I just want to make sure it's nothing you'll regret." "Never with you. You have my consent," she laughed. She then jumped back into bed, and he continued his exploration of her body, just as she did his. Eventually, it leads to him climbing on top of her. "You're sure, right?" he asked once again, as he lifted her legs up. "For God's sake, put it in me. You have my consent. You always will. I'm always going to keep asking, though. I'm a gentleman." Then he entered her. They both moaned, both of their minds blown by the intensity of the sensation that comes with that first taste of sex, the kind of pleasure that can only be felt when you hit that perfect mix of love, lust, and repression. "Augie, I don't care if I'm dead. You'll always have my consent." After his third climax and her fourth, they both finally passed out, both completely at ease from the flood of dopamine that can only be delivered by sex, or, possibly, heroin. "I'm going to marry you," August said. "Oh yeah? Where's the ring?" And then they both fell asleep. Joseph Brewer had been upset when Bex wasn't home by 9. This became anger when she wasn't home by 10, and by 11:30, he was fully dressed in his warm winter coat and hat, and fuming in a white-hot fury. At midnight, he grabbed his shotgun. In the graveyard, he found no sign of her. The snow had stopped that afternoon, so he would have easily spotted her path had they spent any time there. In his truck, he drove recklessly, slipping and sliding in the snow on tires that had little tread left. But he had been driving in snow his whole life, so it was no concern to him. His focus was on finding his whore of a daughter and the scum that was likely defiling her at this very moment. He let go of the shifter to fumble in his jacket, to pull out a large chunk of chew from his pack of little Katie chewing tobacco. He felt a bit like a pansy carrying around a bag of little Katie, but it was a few cents cheaper than Plowboy or Beechnut. Plus, he thought it had a better taste. He was also ready to fight if anybody ever gave him guff about it. Nobody did. It was known around Dorset not to mess with Joseph Brewer. When he pulled in front of the Grange, the lights were still on. He left his truck running, went upstairs, and threw the door open, ready to make a scene. But the only ones inside were a few people cleaning. "Joseph Brewer," a woman's voice said, "do I have a story to tell you?" It was Miss Brockmiller, and she told him all about how close Becky Sue and August Hannig were dancing. She also told him how they had walked out together and which direction they were heading. "What the hell is going on here?" August and Bex shot up out of bed. Even in her hurry, Bex was aware enough to hold the blanket so that her breasts weren't exposed. "Explain yourself, you hussy." It was the heat of the moment," Bex offered. "You little slut," Sarah said, and then laughed. "You are so lucky Mr. Fritz had me open this morning." "I guess I am," Beck said. You will keep my... She looked over at August. Our secret. Of course, but later you give me a call. I want all the details, she said, as she took in August's exposed, muscular chest that all the farm boys seemed to have. August was already sliding off the bed to get dressed. In his attempt to pull his underwear on while holding the blanket, he started to pull the covers away from Beck's. Fearing that her naked body would be exposed, she yanked them back, which suddenly revealed his full naked form to Sarah. Oh my, you must have had fun, Bex. After they both got dressed and made their way outside, August went to walk her home. Augie, for your safety as well as my own, I think this is as close to my house as you should go. I want to walk you home. I appreciate the gesture, but it seriously won't be safe for either of us. But what if he wants to hurt you? He's going to hurt me, but it's a matter of how bad, and it'll be much worse if you come with me. I promise that. For my safety, let me walk home alone. I can't have him hurt you. This is the end of that part of your life. That's all over with. She laughed. You're sweet. Come home with me. That'll only make it worse. Not if you move in. What? Yeah, I know it's sudden, but I'm in love with you and we have the space. What would your mother say? It doesn't matter. I'm the man of the house. You got the penis, so you make the rules. Is that it? Of course, for the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man. They both laughed. All right, I guess it's safe for you to walk me home then. Bex felt a weight off her shoulder. She hadn't felt this much at ease in her whole life. She was finally getting away from her abusive father, and moving in with August just felt right. At the Hannig farm, her father paced the porch. Inside, August's mother, Margaret, was heard yelling, I said, get off my land! She suddenly wished she had a phone line, but to her, she had nobody that she wanted to jaw with. Phones are for gossip and layabouts, she always said. But now she knew they could also be used for calling authorities to pull protective fathers off her property. She understood how he felt. She was just as angry at her boy for not coming home and for doing God knows what with his harlot of a daughter. But those are matters to be taken care of under one's own roof. She's his kid and he can beat her if he wants, but not on her porch. This is it, she thought. I'm grabbing my shotgun. When she slammed open her door and pointed the old double barrel at him, he got the message and ran to his truck. His bad mood didn't improve as he drove out of there, especially when Mrs. Hannig pulled the trigger, spattering birdshot on the tailgate of his truck. August and Bex had arrived at the Hannig farm's long driveway, just moments before Mrs. Hannig went into her house to get her shotgun. When August had run into the field, Bex wasn't sure what he was doing until he leaned over and picked a few wildflowers. Bex smiled as he approached with them, but then she was confused when he only handed her half of them. He held up the other bunch. For my ma, she's going to have to accept this, but she ain't going to be too happy. Bex put her nose to the combo of wildflowers to smell them. They're pretty. Permission to be cliché? Sure. Not as pretty as you are. Bex held her stomach, bent over, and made fake puking noises. Come on, give me a break. I'm new to romance. She straightened back up and smiled at him. You sure you're not just trying to get back in my pants? I can't wait to play Naked Twister with you again, but that's not the reason. I think the world of you, and I want you to know that. She stops there, walking to give him a little kiss. I'm nervous that your mother won't like me. That's a correct feeling. She won't like you, but she will feel better when she finds out that we're getting married. We are? I don't recall a ring or a proposal, Augie Hannig. That's when he turned around and faced her. Becky Sue, you know how much I care about you. Yes? The sound of a shotgun going off was heard by the two. Bex looked at him with concern. Mama's probably shooting at coyotes, he explained. Then he got down on his knees and pulled a loose ring out of his pocket. Her face expressed surprise, then happiness, and then, she didn't know why, but she began to cry. This whole relationship was so fresh. This was crazy, yet she knew her answer already. Oh, Augie. Yes, yes, she said. As he went to put the ring on her finger, her face changed to express a new emotion. He watched with confusion as her face went from tears of happiness to terror. That's when he heard the sound that had already registered to her ears. She had known instantly from the way the exhaust rattled that it was her father's truck. Its sound was so distinct because he had been too cheap to replace his rotted-out muffler on the truck even after she offered to pay for it. Instead, he opted to fix it with a patch, which only added a whistling sound to the low rumble. When the truck came to a sudden stop behind him, August stood back up. "You son of a bitch!" Joseph yelled as he threw his door open and made his way to August. "Look, sir, we're all adults here. Let's calm down and—" The punch to his face, delivered by the old man, was enough to shut him up. "You stay away from my daughter, or I'll kill you," he said while he held his aching right hand. "I'm not going to stay away from her. I'm going to marry her," August declared as he put his face right up to Joseph's. "And there is nothing you can do about it." "Daddy, no!" Bex yelled and ran towards them. She knew the sound of his Colt pistol being cocked too well. Growing up on a farm, August knew the sound well too, and began to back away from the old man. "I thought there was no way I could stop you," Joseph laughed. "Bex, get in the truck." "Don't!" August yelled to her, but she was already heading to it, as Joseph walked towards August, bringing their 10-foot gap down to 2. Then he smiled and took another step, putting the gun to August's forehead. "Daddy, stop! I'm in the truck already. I'll be good." Joseph squinted and stared into August's eyes, never taking his finger off the trigger. August couldn't hide the anger he was feeling, but it didn't outweigh his fear. Moments passed that felt like hours. Then Joseph stepped back a foot, made a quick inhale of breath, and then spat a mixture of saliva and chewing tobacco in August's face. As soon as Joseph pulled away with his new fiancée in the truck, August's knees buckled, and he fell to the ground. That son of a bitch. What a total son of a bitch! He had no intention of letting him win. He stood up, slid the ring back in his pocket, and swore to himself that he would put it on her finger. As soon as he arrived at his family's farm, His mother began to scream at him. "You are a no-good fornicator, you son of Solomon! What shame you've brought to this family! You should have seen how upset that man was. Fuck that guy. Oh my life, where, Lord, did I go wrong?" She looked up to the sky. "I'm sorry, Lord. I've wasted this precious life you gave me, raising a sinner." August feigned shock. I thought now you wanted me to be like everyone else. Normal people date." His mother's eyes snapped from the sky to looking directly at him. "There is a difference between dating and being a common fornicator. Do not stand here and lie to me and tell me that you and that harlot spent all night talking, that nothing sinful happened between you." August wasn't going to lie, so he said nothing. "And what about me and my worrying? Did you ever stop to think what being out all night would do to my health? Not to mention the poor father of the girl you defiled." "Jesus Christ, Mom," August yelled. "Give me a break. Everybody has sex." The stress of all that had happened, with the added shame of her son taking the Lord's name in vain, was too much for Margaret. Her face suddenly froze, and then her knees buckled. August ran to his mother. "You are nothing but a no-good little whore. Do you know what kind of shame you've brought to this family?" Joseph yelled, just inches away from his daughter's black and blue face. Her tears mixed with the blood from her nose, keeping the crimson blood fresh, though the broken nose happened an hour ago, when he punched her in the truck. "Don't you love me?" Bex asked. He just stared at her. "How can you hurt me this way? Why do you hate me? For liking a boy? I'm not doing anything outside the norm of every other American girl," she explained as she looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of his humanity, or even the slightest hint of her getting through to him. She saw nothing. "Mama, don't die," August said to his mother in her hospital bed. "She's not a harlot. I plan to marry her, I promise. I'm going to make her an honest woman, and be the man you want me to be." His mother attempted to smile and touched his hand. He stayed in that position for a long time, looking over her, but his thoughts drifted to Bex and how he was going to get her back. He thought about grabbing his father's old small game rifle and shooting Joseph Brewer. It was only a .22, but it was good enough to kill his own father when he shot himself in the head a decade back. But as much as he wanted to end her father's life, he knew it would end theirs as well, and he felt like his life was just beginning. He wasn't going to let that old man be the cause of it being ruined. No, he was going to have to be very cautious. He felt like a bastard because his only plan was to sneak over there, grab her, and leave town, at least for a little while. But to do that, while his mother was possibly on her deathbed, made him feel terrible. Bex desperately clung to the couch as he tried to pull her from the front room. She knew his plan, and she was going to fight with all her strength to stop him. For an old man, he was strong. A life of farm work on top of his real job, which included loading up other farmers' trucks with heavy supplies at Dorset feed. So it wasn't long before she lost her grip and fell to the floor. He laughed and dragged her by her right foot as she kicked him with her left, which didn't seem to stop him, but not much would. He was at white heat. She grabbed the kitchen table as she slid past, but let go when he stomped on the arm that grabbed it. From the sound of the crack and the new rush of pain, she was sure it was broken. She held her arm as he brought her to her feet and pushed her. She knew this was the moment, her last chance to save herself. She let go of her broken arm to cock back her other one and swung as hard as she could, making perfect contact with his nose. She smiled when she heard the crack. She knew she had broken it. He looked at her with disdain in his eyes and kicked her as hard as he could in the stomach, throwing her back through the doorway he had opened earlier, and watched as she tumbled down the basement stairs. He heard the thuds and some cracking sounds, but he didn't hear the loud snap he had hoped for, the snap he had heard when he pushed his wife down the front room stairs. "You were always a problem," he said, and then walked down to the basement floor. She was moaning in pain and crying. He knew he would need to wipe the tears away. That wouldn't look good. The bruises weren't great, but of course, he had that dirt on the sheriff that kept them from looking too hard after the death of his wife. He probably didn't expect him to play that card a second time, let alone only a few years later. "Daddy, please. I'm in love," she said weakly. He smiled at her and then grabbed her shoulder while putting his other hand on her head, and did what the stairs were supposed to do. With a quick jerk, he broke her neck. August felt bad leaving his mother's side, but he had to check on Becky. He arrived at the Brewer home in the family car, a 1942 Chevrolet Fleetline. "You can do this. Be strong. Just walk up and demand to see her." August turned off the car, got out, and walked up to the front door as fast as he could, in fear that he would lose his nerve. He knocked, but there was no answer. That's when he noticed that the truck wasn't there. So he went back to his car and waited. He was nervous when he heard a vehicle, but his nerves switched from anxiety to fear when he saw it was an ambulance, and behind it was Joseph Brewer's truck. August jumped out of his car and ran to Joseph, pulled open the door, and shouted, "What the fuck did you do?" Joseph looked around. The ambulance driver had already hopped out and was heading his way. "I'm sorry, son," Joseph said, then pretended to cry. "She's gone." "No!" August yelled. For show, Joseph climbed out of his truck and put his arms around August and hugged him, and said loud enough to make sure the ambulance driver heard, I know, you loved her too." The ambulance driver slowed his stride to let the old man and boy have their moment. August felt so gross with the man's arm around him. Joseph leaned closer and whispered into his ear, "This is your fault, you know, thinking more about sowing your wild oats than about her." August pushed the old man away and then punched him in his already swollen nose. The ambulance driver ran to August and pulled him away from Joseph, who leaned against his truck and pretended to cry. August was able to break away from the driver quickly, but that's when the police car arrived. For the attack on Joseph Brewer, he was arrested. For 2 whole days he sat in that jail cell, with nothing to distract him from his misery. All he did was sleep and cry. "You have a visitor," Sheriff Altell said as he walked a young woman toward his cell, then stopped. "That's close enough, miss." August stood up and put his face up to the bars. "Good morning, August." "Morning, Sarah." Sarah was wearing a long black dress and black shoes. "I wanted to come by and see how you were doing." Bex would have wanted that. "Why are you still in here?" $25 bail and he's all yours," the sheriff offered. $25? For punching a murderer? Mr. Brewer has gone through a lot. If you don't stop with that talk, I'll kick you right out of here. "I can't stay long. Bex's funeral is today, and it feels so wrong that you won't be there. She's being buried in the dress she bought for your Valentine's date. If I had the $25, I'd bail you out. You should be there. It just feels so wrong that she's gone," August replied. On the morning of Valentine's Day, August's mother, Margaret, was finally doing well enough to leave the hospital, and the first thing she did was bail her son out of jail. August was happy to be able to change back into his own clothes and get his personal effects back. The first thing he did was put the ring that was meant for Bex on his pinky finger. That afternoon, he drove the fleet line to the cemetery. His mother didn't like him driving the car more than necessary, so usually he'd walk everywhere. But he no longer cared about her rules. As he entered, he thought about his father, but still did not want to see his grave, because that would make it final. He felt the same way about hers. He still wanted the fantasy that she would come back to him, but he had made himself a promise that he had to keep. It wasn't hard to find her grave, as it was the only one marked with a wooden cross. He guessed that the headstone hadn't been created yet. August Hannig used the sole of his black leather boots to press the blade of his shovel into the snow-covered earth. Despite the snow, the ground was still soft and easy to dig out, the benefit of it being a fresh grave. "I wish I could have gotten out here sooner, sweetie," August said, though there were only the trees, the wind, and the tombstones around to hear him. It took an hour to get down to her coffin. He was fearful that someone would spot him, but not so much to stop. She was just as beautiful as he remembered. The undertaker had done a fine job, though she looked pale, especially with her now light blue skin, contrasting with the red Valentine's dress that had a decorative heart over her right breast. She was still so beautiful, he thought. He was still so in love with her. He couldn't help himself. He bent down and kissed her cold lips. He then ran his hand down her side until he reached what he was after. He held her hand in his and began to speak. "Oh, Bex, these last few weeks have been magical. I never expected to find love. I didn't even really know what love was until I found you. You're so smart, caring, and cool, and that's with you being under the thumb of your father. I can't imagine what you'll become when you're past his influence, and I want to be a part of that. I want to support you in any way I can. I want to love you for the rest of my days. Bex, will you marry me?" He looked at her for a response, but of course, none came. Then he slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her cold lips once more, then closed the coffin and covered it back up. "Goodbye, my love." If he had stayed a bit longer, he would have seen her eyelids begin to flutter and then open to reveal her cloudy, dry, dilated yet still green eyes. Her struggle to climb out of her grave wouldn't have been as rough either. She wouldn't have broken all her nails, and her beautiful red dress wouldn't have been covered in dirt as she dug her way out of 6 feet of it. After the death of his wife last year, and now that his daughter is gone, there was a certain amount of ease to Joseph Brewer's mind. Of course, things would be a bit tighter financially without her contribution, but at least he no longer had to worry about the women in his life embarrassing him further. As he opened the fridge, he was disappointed to no longer have someone to make his meals. So, he would be having a simple dinner of a sandwich and maybe a can of soup. But for now, he was just grabbing another beer. If he hadn't used the commercial break to grab a drink, he would have seen his front door open. He sat down with his 5th beer of the night, just in time for the opening of Gunsmoke, his favorite show, though he didn't always agree with the morality tales they told. He thought the marshal was too lenient and shouldn't stop the good old boys from hanging the criminals all the time. He believed in frontier justice. He ignored the first creak he heard on the stairs. This was an old house, and it made noise from time to time, but when he heard the creak at the top of the stairs, he knew somebody was in his house. He knew that squeak very well. It only happened when somebody moved from the stairs to the walkway. In one fluid motion, he stood up and swung around to look. But nobody was there. He tried to tell himself it was nothing, but that was when he noticed the dirty footprints by the front door and the bit of dirt on the first couple of steps leading upstairs. "That's no good, boy," he said to himself, then yelled, "Don't you know if you enter somebody's home, they have every right to defend themselves with lethal force?" Joseph walked over to the little end table where his wallet and keys were set. He slid open the drawer and pulled out his Colt pistol, then yelled out, "I always wanted to know what it was like to shoot somebody with this gun. You know, I haven't shot anyone since the war." He got no response from his taunts, so he made his way to the stairs and began his ascent while thinking, how many times can I shoot him with it still being self-defense? At the top of the stairs, he saw a bit more dirt. He couldn't see which direction the person went, but they were smart. Both bedroom doors, the closet, and the bathroom doors had all been open to throw him off. So he bent down and tried to look at each door opening to see if there was any dirt tracked into the rooms. Then he would know where the bastard was hiding. "Come on, you little twerp. Where are you? Show yourself." He had just noticed the tiniest bit of dirt on the floor of his own room. Bingo. That's when Bex jumped out from the bathroom door. He screamed, but despite being startled, he brought up his gun and shot her in the side of her head, taking a large chunk out of her ear. Since her father cheaped out and didn't spring for formaldehyde, red blood still came out from the wound, but only at a trickle, since her heart had ceased to pump. By the time she reached him, he had shot her twice more. From years of hunting, he was a wicked shot, so despite the panic, his bullets both found purchase in the side of her skull, ripping 2 more holes in her head. Both were brutal kill shots, but Since she was undead, the only effect was cosmetic. In response, she pushed him with supernatural strength toward the stairs. Instead of falling down multiple ones, he only hit the last two, and even that was just his ankles, which both broke with enough force that they folded forward. His toes touched his shins. She stared with her dead eyes of malachite and watched him scream before making her slow descent down to him. When she was halfway down the stairs, his survival instinct kicked back in, and he started dragging himself towards the front door. He made it there, but was struggling to reach the knob. So, she helped him with that. He looked up, confused, as she held the door open for him, allowing his escape. But he attempted to continue anyway. That's when she slammed it, catching his head between the door and the frame. "You bitch!" Then she pulled the door back again and slammed it even harder. The sound of his neck breaking was much like the sound hers had made. Before she left, she went into the kitchen and used her cold, dead fingers to put out the pilot lights on his stove. Then she cranked up all the knobs to high and made her way out. Soon enough, she thought, the gas would make it to the fireplace. Then, boom, no more house. When she was alive, she had done this 3 times before, in the middle of the night after her mother had passed, wanting to die and take him with her. But every time, she chickened out. Now, though, he was already dead, and so was she, and she was never coming back here again, so why not? She had made it back to the cemetery when she heard the explosion. She planned to kill him, then crawl back to her grave. But she wasn't ready for death just yet. It was Valentine's Day after all, and she had a date. She looked at the ring on her finger and smiled. Margaret Hannig was sitting in her favorite chair and knitting while listening to a sermon on the radio. It was a Lutheran broadcast, but the minister's constant preaching of forgiveness got on her nerves. Is it not better to live a pious life than to ask for forgiveness? August walked through the living room on his way to get a glass of water. "What are you still doing here?" Margaret asked. "What do you mean?" "It's dance night at the Grange." "My Valentine is dead." "It could be a blessing. You might just meet a better girl, someone who doesn't have mental illness in their gene pool." August turned around and faced his mother. He was furious. "Like we aren't riddled with mental illness in our gene pool? How dare you? How do you mean?" "Well, you have some weird obsession with religion which stops you from living a life, and Dad, not being able to handle your picking and constant berating for not being a saint, something nobody can live up to, by the way, blew his brains out. And you don't even talk about your parents, so I imagine they weren't a source of brightness in your life either." Margaret stood up, got in her son's face, and started screaming. "How dare you? Don't you remember your learning? Honor thy father and mother, that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you." "Mom, calm down. The doctor said you can't get yourself worked up anymore." "How can I not when I'm going to hell?" "What? Oh my God, you are so dramatic. Do you think God is going to let me in heaven after raising a demon? I'm not a demon." "Fuck you," August yelled. "And you know what? I lost my only chance at love last week, so," he pointed his middle finger at the sky, "fuck God too." God is going to smite you down. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death, she yelled, then stormed out of the room. Let him! August yelled, and then went to the coat rack by the door, grabbed his jacket and the keys to the car. I have nothing to live for. The wall next to him exploded, and he instinctively cupped his hands over his ears to protect them, while turning around to see his mother with a shotgun. All who curse their father or mother must be put to death. They are guilty of a capital offense, she said, as she pulled back the hammer. August ran to her and grabbed the gun, but she held it tight. What happened to thou shalt not kill? His mother gave a big yank to pull the gun away. Despite her age, she was strong from working the farm, and she was able to get the firearm away from him. But she pulled with such force and so little care that she ended up falling backwards with the gun aimed at her face, and since her finger had never left the trigger, the gun went off, just like her husband had years earlier. She blew her brains out. August looked down at his mother's dead body and the bits of brain matter and hair that sprayed onto the floor and furniture, and thought, I'm worse than Ed Gein. At least he didn't kill his own mother. August pulled into the last parking spot. The dance at the Grange was rocking. Usually there were maybe 25 people, but being that it was Valentine's Day, and there weren't a lot of places to take a date in the small town of Dorset, every young couple was in attendance. When he made his way to the stairs leading up to the hall, he saw Bex's friend Sarah sharing a cigarette with Thomas. August, you're out, Sarah said. How are you holding up? Not well, August replied. Sorry to hear about Bex. Such a tragedy, Thomas offered. I feel the same way, August sighed. I should have done much more than punch him in the face. I saw him at the funeral, man. You messed up his nose good, Thomas said. The world's smallest consolation, I guess, he replied, and walked past them into the Grange. The hall had been decorated for the occasion with different-sized construction paper cutout hearts and red and pink streamers hanging from the ceiling. Everybody inside was having a great time dancing to the song Dream Lover. What am I doing here? August thought. I should be calling the cops so they don't think I killed her. Or I should be at Bex's house, killing her father. Or maybe I should just go home and shoot myself and end the Hannig line for good. But he did none of those things. He just walked past the dance floor and sat down on the benches where they had first started talking just 2 weeks ago. Throughout the next half hour, all the people in town who had been strangers to him because of his mother's bullshit came and gave their condolences about Bex. He handled it well, but after a while he decided that he should drive to the police station and tell them what happened with his mother. But as he stood up, Miss Brockmiller made her way to him. How dare you show your face after punching an old man? Do you know how much he's gone through? Lost his wife and daughter? And some punk like you who probably defiled her innocence goes and hits him in his time of grief. August looked up at her. The asshole had it coming. Her face turned red and her lips curled. Okay, I think it's time for you to go. Now he no longer felt like leaving. Nah, I'll leave when I feel like it. I'll have you removed. You can't. You have no authority here. You just showed up one week and started bossing people around. August was bluffing. He was right, but he knew the bitch could get someone to kick him out, regardless of authority. But that's when the screaming started. August looked past the woman and saw people running out the door. The reason? Bex had walked into the room, and she looked much worse than when he had reburied her hours ago. He should have felt fear, but all he felt was happiness and anticipation. He stood up and headed in her direction. The screaming distracted her momentarily until she spotted her Augie heading in her direction. Then for both of them, all the noise and chaos faded away. They were too focused on getting back in each other's arms to notice much else. Most people did exit, but some were stuck in a state of shock and remained. They were shaken out of this state when Miss Brockmiller attempted to get between the two. "Stay away from her. She must be some sort of demon." August ignored her. "I missed you, babe." "Me too. It was death without you." They both laughed. Miss Brockmiller grabbed August by the shoulder and pulled him away from her approach. This upset Bex, who responded by slapping her in the face. That's when the last of the stragglers broke free of shock and ran out. Miss Brockmiller instinctively put her hand to her face to cover where she was hit. She then looked back at August, who appeared entranced, and then back at her dead green eyes, then back around to see she was the last one in there. That's when she decided that self-preservation was the best choice and ran out. "Bex, may I have this dance?" "Of course, dear," she said and held out her hand, which he took and kissed softly before pulling her in close. "I missed you," he said. "I missed you so much," she said as her face scrunched and her eyelids fluttered. "What's going on? Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm crying, but I have no tears to cry." "My poor Bexy," he said, and put his arm around her, attempting to guide her head to his shoulder, but the broken neck made it nearly impossible. "I'm sorry, dear." "It's okay," Bex offered. "These have been tough lives," August said. "You still have yours." Outside, the locals were arguing about what to do with the unholy thing amongst them. "Let's shoot her," Tom, the 50-year-old owner of the Flying A gas station, suggested. "I don't think that'll help. Looks like somebody already had," Smitty, the quarterback of the Dorset High School football team, said. "Hey, Tom, you got the keys to the station with you?" Frank the butcher asked. "Yeah," he said. "Why?" Frank turned to a couple of the other guys. "John, Richard, why don't you go with Tom and come back with some gas cans? Full." "Why? What are we going to do?" Bex's friend Sarah asked. "We're going to do what her father should have done. Cremate her." Inside the Grange hall, Bex and August caught each other up on the events since they last saw each other. "You don't have to worry about my father anymore," Bex said. "He's dead." "So's my mom," August added. "It was an accident." "Mine wasn't," Bex said. When the music stopped, he excused himself and walked to the abandoned record player. After a few moments, August found the record he was looking for. Dwayne Eddy's Have Twangy Guitar Will Travel, which he put on side A, then walked back to her. "Dwayne Eddy?" she asked. "Of course. I told you, Link Ray was way cooler. But Dwayne Eddy was the first artist we ever danced to." "But it wasn't this song," Beck said. "Are you in a rush?" August asked. It'll get there. The first song was a slow one, but the second song, Stalkin', had the perfect low groove for dirty dancing. I guess we don't have to worry about Mrs. Brockmiller separating us now, do we? I guess not. Their focus was on each other, so they didn't notice the noise from outside, and they didn't hear Mrs. Brockmiller yell, "Light it!" Nor did they pay attention as the younger boys nailed the doors shut using nearby scrap lumber. No, they were stuck in their own world. It was several minutes before August noticed that something was off. Do you feel that? I don't think I'm capable of feeling anything. It's getting really warm, he said, and then looked around. That's when he noticed the flames, which had made it inside and were beginning to spread across the floor. "You've got to go," Beck said. "For what? You have your whole life ahead of you." "You are my whole life. I'd rather stay with you." August leaned in and kissed her pale, dry lips. "I love you," she said, and kissed his moist lips. Then they embraced in a hug. By the time the fire trucks arrived, it was too late. The roof had collapsed. It took several hours for the fire to be put out and for enough wreckage to be cleared to find the two of them. Despite being charred from the blaze and crushed by falling timber, they still held each other and appeared to be looking in each other's eyes. They both had smiles on their faces that expressed the kind of love that only couples in dime novels seem to possess. The following year, the Grange was rebuilt. Not long after this, locals began to claim that it was haunted. Throughout the years, their names were lost to history, and the ghostly image that people claimed to see each Valentine's Day of a couple dancing who weren't there became known as the Valentine's lovers, mostly because of the red dress people claimed that the female ghost wore. All right, my spookies. I hope you enjoyed our Valentine's Day novella as much as I did. Huge thank you to Bruce Haney for writing us such a lovely and horrifying story with a whole lot of heart, and not just the kind that gets ripped from the corpse. If you're out there tonight, my spookies, walking home through the snow with a slow song still stuck in your head, just remember, in a small town, everybody knows your business. Somebody always thinks they know better than you, and if they ever tell you over my dead body, well, careful what you wish for. Now, before you go writing a love letter you'll regret in the morning, we've got more terror on the way. This Friday, Cutting Deep into Horror is stepping into the spotlight with Pearl, a bright, beautiful nightmare about ambition, obsession, and the kind of desperation that smiles right at you while it sharpens the knife, so don't miss that one this Friday. And on Saturday, we're opening the WeeklySpooky Vault for a special Valentine's horror compilation to make sure you have something bloody good to enjoy. And I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more at weeklyspooky.com/join to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Kate and Lulu, Jessica Fuller, Mike Eschewey, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you guys so very much. And if you want to hear your name at the end of the show, just head to weeklyspooky.com/join and sign up at the $15 a month or higher tier. It really helps me out, and I do appreciate it greatly. But now it's time for me to get back to work. There is so much more fear I have for all of you coming right up. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. You do not want to miss all the scares to come. So for myself, for my executive producers Rob Fields and Bobbletopia.com, my producer Dan Wilder, and my creepy composer Ray Mattis, I will talk at you later, and enjoy the chocolates.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.